Hi, welcome back to another video. As you can see by the title, how I earned $1 million by hosting travel nurses. If you're tired of spinning your wheels with your finances, this video is for you. If you're tired of that 9 to 5 and answering to that boss every day, this video is for you. If you're tired of attempting to grow your savings account and you always find yourself back at square one, this video is for you. Allow me to show you how you can finally get out of the rat race and level up. You see, in business, and I don't care what it is, you have to identify a problem and then execute a solution. That's nothing different than hosting travel nurses. I actually came upon this a couple years ago from a client of mine at a past life when I used to personal train, and he told me that he was hosting travel nurses and found a way to create passive income for himself. Well, that's where I came into play, and I kind of took what he told me and ran with it. I now host travel nurses on a monthly basis. I house 30 of them at a time, and it's been a life-changing event for me. It's quickly changed the trajectory for my family and wealth building. Now I have money for my children and family and friends around me. And now I sit on the other side of the tracks, excited to tell you all about it. I house these travel nurses in two different ways. Some of them I own through a technique called rental arbitrage that's saved for another video. And the other way is I own these houses outright. And with travel nurses, it's very unique because they're traveling from hospital to hospital and they're providing their services. Of course, they don't want to haul around a TV and a couch everywhere. Or that's where you and I step in. All of these homes and units need to be furnished completely so that these nurses can comfortably stay for at least 13 weeks at a time. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how you too can become a millionaire by hosting travel nurses. I'll be covering costs on how to get started, items to furnish the unit, of course, how to close the deal, how to find tenants, and finally, the big profit reveal. I find these tenants in a plethora of ways, and this is in no particular order. Number one being Facebook.com. Never underestimate the power of social media when it comes to marketing for tenants. You can type in groups such as Midwest Travel Nurses and all of these groups will pop up. After you identify the group, you can take your photos, upload your listings, and now you have access to all of these travel nurses who are traveling to your market. This is firsthand access to travel nurses that will be coming to your city. So never underestimate the power of social media when it comes to marketing for your listing. Next up is FurnishFinder.com. This is where all traveling healthcare professionals come as probably the number one website to find housing. Think of Furnish Finder like the middleman, meaning everything after the initial contact, everything after that is done off of the platform. So I have my own contract lease agreements that I send out electronically. I have my own payments that I collect on a monthly basis. Again, this is off of the platform. And of course, all the messaging and corresponding, yes, it is done on the platform initially. But I also want to stress that after that initial contact is made, get them on the phone immediately and finally close the deal. Next up is recruiting companies. When these travel nurses are traveling, they all have recruiters, meaning the recruiter is responsible for matchmaking the hospital to the nurse. So every nurse that you have also has a recruiter. And if you can get in with the recruiting companies, you are golden. Because there are so many travel nurses traveling across the world, this isn't going anywhere. And because they all have a recruiter, once you're in with them, you are golden. One thing that I did initially was cold call and cold email a lot of recruiting companies across the country. That way I can get in really good and also let them know that I have 30 units available that are all occupied by travel nurses throughout the year. So once they know that and I do right by each tenant, I'm good. And now they'll continue to send me more nurses throughout the year. Lastly is TurboTenant.com. Think of TurboTenant like your one-stop shop for everybody trying to find housing. Meaning once you upload your listing to TurboTenant.com, it automatically blasts out to about 10 different platforms like Zillow.com, Apartments.com, all just by uploading to TurboTenant. That's also why it's on my list and why I also frequently use this. One of the main questions that I receive from my mentees when they're looking to start this business is how to actually determine if it's a good area to host travel nurses. Well, if it's within a 10 to 15 mile radius of a hospital, it's a great area. If there's a lot of attractions around, such as restaurants, maybe a beach, maybe a zoo, it's a great area. These are all selling points for nurses who are traveling from city to city. Unfortunately, people will always be sick. And especially over the last decade, there's been an extreme shortage in stationary nurses, meaning the nurses that are actually in their city and they live in their city. There's been a big shortage with them, which is why travel nursing especially has picked up over the last decade. It's never too late to jump in the game, and I suggest you do it immediately. When it comes to furnishing the unit, think of everything you would need if you were staying somewhere 13 weeks at a time. These travel nurses are traveling across the world, and they're not one to bring in a couch and a TV everywhere they go. So when it comes to furnishing, you need to make sure everything you would need to feel comfortable in a 13-week stay needs to be included in the unit. And matter of fact, that's a great segue. Let's go ahead and comment down below everything you would need if you were staying somewhere for 13 weeks at a time. In my units particularly, I put queen size beds, couches, coffee maker. All of these things are essentials and needed in your unit. When it comes to separating yourself from the competition, the first thing that the tenants will see are your photos. And you do not need to go out and hire a professional photographer. For me, I take all my photos on my iPhone and it works just fine. Now, of course, I may want to throw a filter on there just to separate myself even more from the competition. But outside of that, you don't need to go out and hire. Your iPhone or Android will work just fine. Now that we've furnished the unit, we've taken our photos, we've put our listing up, well, now that we have someone interested, how do we actually close the deal? The number one advice that I've ever received, and now that I also practice in my business, is to get them on the phone immediately. Too many things can be lost in translation through text message and trying to communicate on these platforms. Get them on the phone and finally close the deal. Keep in mind, 9 times out of 10, the tenant will reach out to you. Allow your listing to do the selling. They never would have reached out in the first place if they weren't interested and if they didn't need housing. I equate this to a car dealership. I'm not going to go to a car dealership if I'm not in the market for a car. And I promise these tenants will not reach out to you if they don't need housing in your city. Allow your listing to do the talking so that can put you at ease while you're on the call. While on the call, the number one thing that I lead with is security. These nurses want to be safe and feel safe when they're in your city. That means I'm going over any extra security measures that is in place so that they can be safe during their stay. Next up, I'm going over any amenities that they may have access to. A lot of my units are inside of apartment buildings, mainly 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And another selling point for me are amenities that the building comes with. This could be a swimming pool, a 24-hour fitness center. Anything that can separate you from your competition, make sure you put that up front on the call. Next up, I'm going over any fees that will be associated with their stay. This could be maintenance fees for the upkeep of the unit or the house. This could be cleaning fees because the unit needs to be turned over or cleaned after each stay. So that means after someone stays for 13 weeks at a time, it needs to be deep cleaned in order to prepare for the next tenant. And then finally, I'm going over such as parking fees because parking isn't always free, especially let's say you're in a metro downtown area. So this needs to be communicated while on the call. And then finally on the call, I'm wrapping up with how they actually secure the space. For me, I require first month rent and a refundable security deposit. I always emphasize refundable because this is due back at the end of their stay as long as no damage is done to the property. This is imperative to let them know this on the call. And then after payment, I'm also telling them that a contract lease agreement is also in place. This contract lease agreement for me comes electronically. I automatically receive a notification once that's signed, and then the place is there. And then I'm also relaying that I collect payments through their Venmo, Zelle, or Cash App. There are a plethora of ways to collect payments, but these are the main 3 that I use. Occasionally, I'll accept credit card, and I use the Square platform for that. But I do charge an extra 4.5% whenever a credit card is in place. One of the main things to be aware of in this business, especially as you continue to scale, is that organization and your cleaning crew are key. You must stay organized because as you continue to scale from 1 units to 5 to 10, you need to be organized. People will always be moving in and people will always be moving out. You need to make sure that your systems are in place in order to continue to run smoothly. When it comes to cleaning, I would consider this to be the number 1 key item to a successful business. In this industry, you are housing people on a 13-week basis. The place needs to be spotless at all times. As mentioned earlier, everything's deep cleaned after their 13-week stay and turned over for the next tenant. You need to make sure that communication with your cleaners is key. I started out when I just had one unit. I was cleaning. I was learning the business that way. Now, of course, I have a cleaning crew in place because I have 30 of these. But when you're just starting out, there's no need for that. Just clean on your own and make sure that you can really learn the ins and outs of the business so that when you scale, you can offload this and delegate accordingly. Finally, the juicy part. How much does it actually cost to get started? Keep in mind, these numbers are based on primarily one bedroom, one bathroom units. To get started and furnish, it's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to furnish. Again, this is a queen size bed, coffee maker, and a couch. All of that combined costs about $1,500 to $2,000. When it comes to the revenue for the business, and this is on a per month, per unit basis, I'm seeing anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500. Of course, I can charge a little bit more in the summertime and a little bit less in the wintertime, which is why I just gave you a rough range and an average. But on a yearly basis, it's anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 per unit. From a monthly rent standpoint, I'm paying anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 in rent or mortgages. So when you take my revenue minus my rent or mortgages, that's how much I'm profiting on a monthly basis. Now you see why I love this business and why I'm telling you all about it. As mentioned earlier, I have mentees that I'm coaching on a weekly basis so that they too can earn millions by hosting travel nurses. Hey, look, if you like this content and really want to get started, I have my coaching description and link down below. You can schedule a call with me and I promise we can hit the ground running so you too can earn your way to $1 million by hosting travel nurses. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and be sure to comment your favorite part down below. This is exactly how you get out of the rat race and level up. I'll see you next week for another video.